What a day, probably full of FOMO and regret, the stocks that you always wanted to own or buy in the last week or 2 weeks, but never had the courage, and they were all up today. It's not you alone, this is phenomena market-wide right now across retail. Now there were few shockers which were stock specific. One was Zen Technologies that was down 5.5% on huge volumes. This was a block deal that happened at the very first few minutes of the day at 9:15. People didn't inquire into it and they just thought that there's something bad and didn't trade into the stock. Then ITC, believe me, no one has ever quit cigarette or smoking because the costs have gone up. The third calamity was Varun Beverages. It was singled out as the only beverage company in the world probably. And who was flashing this news most? The owners of Campa Cola, as if the Campa Cola will not be impacted. Now one positive news flow, and Center is not waiting for budgets at all. Center has approved 5 defense proposals worth close to 22,000 crores. This will benefit, in my opinion, GRSC and Mazgaon Dock most. Also because of the radar systems and all, BEL. Happy indices, Nifty up, Bank Nifty up, Next 50 up, creating new highs throughout the day. IT was a little shaky, but end of the day, you will take 0.5% because IT has already gone up a lot. The sector which was star of the day perhaps was PSU banks, however. Now the nugget for today is very interesting and I spent nearly the full day today analyzing and building this nugget. Hope you enjoy it. The criteria for windfall tax, because there are a lot of oil marketing companies, oil refining companies, which companies are impacted, which company does what. I've created a matrix where I've clarified a lot of stuff that these companies do, and there are about 8-9 companies on that matrix. Today, the maximum pull on Nifty came from ITC, 7.7%, but HDFC Bank was determined to take Nifty up. Contribution was 14%, 33 stocks up, 17 down. HDFC best performer in the green, followed by SBI, Reliance, Adani Ports and ONGC. What was pulling Nifty down most? ITC, Airtel, Trent, Sun Pharma, ICICI. Trent probably was mistaken for luxury goods here because Trent's clothes are not luxury at all. In fact, in 10,000 rupee, which is the ticket size, you can probably buy your annual supply of clothes from Trent. Today, the star was Union Bank actually after a long time. In fact, if you see next 50, 43 stocks up, the top tier belong to banks today. Union Bank, Canara Bank, Bank of Baroda, followed by TVS Motors and Tata Power. Tata Power, of course, had a good news. One of their renewable plants got activated. What was down today? Varun Beverages, Adani Green, Zomato, DLF and Info Edge. Hardly any tail, hardly any bears around. 29 sectors up out of 36 tracked on this particular dashboard. It doesn't look like we are having a bad time at all on Nifty as per this particular trend of last 2 weeks. Heavy machinery is rocking right now, Siemens primarily and ABB a bit. The third one is aerospace and defense, and my gut feel is aerospace and defense will move up tomorrow. HDFC Bank made a new high, Next 50 made a new high. Next 50 looked beautiful today, only Kotak Mahindra that was down a bit. In fact, for most stocks, the going kept getting better only whole day. Private banks, all good, the reds continue, however, good solid gains in most stocks. Look at J&K Bank, that's a portfolio company for me, 5% up. Look at the beating this sector has taken the smaller banks, how far they are from their 52-week highs. BSE corrected a bit, so did MCX, the two exchanges. However, the investing pack was looking good today. Angel One up 5% and KFin Tech another 4% made a new high today. Look at the volumes, more than 100% for most stocks. NBFC is looking all good. I just realized today that Piramal Enterprises is missing here. I'll add that soon. PFC and REC have been going up significantly, steadily. Look at the trend of PFC last few days. Now, Solar Industries was up very early in the day, but then it came down. See the trading range? 10% for the day. Look at the volumes very early in the day. This probably also was a block deal only. Metals all good. Hindustan Zinc is the only red company. Volumes here also have picked up. Oil and sector, the sector was up 1.4%. The gains, however, were not as high as I had expected. No 7-8% kind of gains. And we still have 5 red companies, including Reliance. Volumes are picking up. In the power sector today, Torrent was up most 6.5% on good volumes. Now, Torrent has been up for 3 days, however, it is far away from its 52-week high. Usually, Torrent goes up a lot when it gets into an up move. Every correction has led to a rally after that. NTPC Green was on steroids today, up 10%, hit a lifetime high. Also, since the high was reached very early in the day, probably there will be an up move tomorrow also. Consumption, ITC and Varun Beverages, they were down. Radico came for profit booking, but its sibling Associate Alcohol that hit a new high. Non-edibles were looking good. DMart came back very strongly today, 4%. I was talking about DMart yesterday only. Adani Group actually was mixed back today. Select stocks were up. Adani Enterprises, Adani Ports. But the middle tier, the power companies, they corrected a bit. Also, volumes were not very high except for ports. The outcome was beautiful today, and in fact, there was one mathematical mistake today. One trade between FIs DIs probably did not materialize at 3:30. FIs ended up with a green number and DIs with a negative number. The best gains were today reserved for Bank Nifty and Nifty Energy. And I missed talking about this graph yesterday. India's crude oil imports are at 4 months high. The stocks are sulking, but India is importing a lot of crude. Either we are exporting or we are consuming internally. Both cases are good for the oil companies, refining as well as marketing. Where is the problem for oil stocks? Rupee is at an all-time low, and don't rush into buying IT stocks. The extra margins will be there if the volumes are high, if the order intake is good. One thing which this is good for is current holders of gold, because gold is high around 76,000, and as the rupee depreciates, the gold imports get dearer. The domestic prices will go up even if the international prices don't move up. I bought IOC, Zen Technologies, and Vari today. All three are for trading purposes. Right today, I sold a lot. Kfin Technologies profit was not very high, around 3-4%. Idea was not moving up at all, so I got rid of it. This also was a profitable trade. Shriram Finance, I think the profit was around 6-7% in less than a week. That was fine. Spandana Spurti, again the profit was 10% in less than 2 weeks. Adani Pack, overall it was profitable. Sold the complete pack. Oil and gas and windfall taxation. Let's first talk about the rationale. Both oil and gas, when they are mined in India, when they are taken out from the sea or crust, they are national resources. What government says is, if the international prices, which is on the other side of the globe, say in Middle East or somewhere else, if this price goes up, then government should get more money for it corresponding to international boil in the prices. So whichever companies are digging these wells and taking crude or gas out, they will be able to sell it higher price. Government says, give me more than you usually do via specific mechanism called windfall tax. It is not a new concept. It has been around for 4-5 decades. It has been called with various names under different governments. Now, one side effect of windfall tax is when the companies are doing really well, when the ecosystem is good, significant part of the profit goes to the government because it's a national resource. And when the markets are down, government does not compensate. In fact, this time the reverse happened. The prices were down, but government did not reduce windfall tax within time. Election season. As a result, the profitability of all these companies went down considerably, and last quarter results were exceptionally bad. Of course, a lot of companies are sitting on inventories, which I have explained in the past also, which they should be able to monetize this quarter. Government has made this tax zero now because it is making Indian companies incompetitive right now in the international markets, the ones that export. As a result, India is not able to export crude products much these days. Currency is already under pressure. We made a new low. This entire money will either make these companies competitive or add to their margins. Landscape wise, there are three major streams. We typically talk about refining, Jamnagar Refinery, Reliance. That is downstream. The upstream is called ENP, exploration and production. These are the oil rigs. These are the exploratory drillings that happen in the seabeds, in deserts. Most of the time, crude oil and gas come together. The middle stream is primarily transportation. Once you have drilled the gas or oil, you have to take it to the refinery. After you take it to the refinery, you refine it. The products are varying: diesel, that to high speed, normal, petrol, kerosene. Then you have to transmit or transfer these to some other sites and then finally distribute. All that is downstream. This is the complete landscape. Let me first talk about upstream and E&P. The companies are Reliance, ONGC, and Oil, which is Oil India. These companies are involved in drilling and taking out crude, which results into petrochemical and gas products. All of them are involved in that. Reliance, ONGC, and Oil. Reliance and ONGC are also involved at an international scale. ONGC is ONGC Videsh. Now, if you are international, you also need to move things around. I am not sure how ONGC manages the international part. And Reliance has not published too many details how they transfer things internally in the nation because 80% of the stuff they produce is in any case exports right from the outskirts of Gujarat. Oil India, of course, is involved in the national transport. The reason we don't have ONGC here, I'll talk about it. Also, refining is not there under ONGC. I'll talk about that also. Reliance obviously is the biggest refiner in the world. There are three refineries primarily for Oil India. One of them is Numaligarh, and Oil India is also involved in retail distribution, a little of it. ONGC and Oil only export a little of what they produce. Most of it is for domestic consumption. There are some other businesses also. Reliance has a long list. ONGC and Oil have been investing a bit into renewables. There are two more companies, MRPL and CPL, which is Chennai Petro. They are not involved in upstream or middle stream. MRPL, in fact, is owned by ONGC. Chennai Petro is owned by Indian Oil Corporation. Both of them are refiners. Both of them deal with slightly high-end products. Both of them have retail distribution arms, but these are local. For example, MRPL is more involved in Karnataka region, and they both export a lot the high margin stuff. MRPL, for example, exports 35% of its refined products. CPL, I don't have numbers, but that also is a big exporter. High speed diesel, ATF, these are high margin businesses. MRPL, CPL deal with both of them. IOCL, BPCL, HPCL, all three of them are refiners. We talk about them more as oil marketing companies, the retail distribution part of it. But they do their own refining. They get crude, refine it into products that are sold as retail distributors or oil marketing companies. And all of them have interest in renewables and EVs. Note that all of these companies also distribute gas, the cylinders. GAIL is upstream, which means it is involved with ONGC and oil in refining. So petrochem, gas, and they also have international presence. Downstream refining, then transmission that is within the city, and retail distribution to homes. All of them are done by GAIL. Petronet LNG is a special company because that imports gas primarily from Qatar. There are three large ships owned by Petronet on lease which run between Qatar and India continuously, getting gas to India. These come to two ports primarily. One is in Gujarat called Dahej, and the other one is in Kochi. From there, gas is distributed to all the companies that need gas. Transmission lines are involved here. Retail distribution also is done by Petronet, and I missed marking this. Adani Total, Gujarat Petro, Gujarat Gas, IGL, MGL, they are all same. They are gas distribution companies. They specialize into certain areas. Adani Total, for example, mainly Gujarat and Rajasthan. Gujarat Petro and Gas, primarily Gujarat. IGL is in NCR, MGL is in Mumbai. They are involved in transporting the gas from Petronet terminals to their distribution centers. There are stations where this gas is stored. It is transmitted and it is distributed to our homes. Adani Total is also into EV charging stations and meters. Now let's see which all companies are impacted by windfall tax. Reliance exports 80% of the stuff. Windfall tax was applicable on all exports going out of India. So Reliance is the biggest winner because all that gets added to their margins. ONGC and oil are impacted also, but only little because only a small part of what they produce goes out of the country. MRPL benefits significantly, a third of what they produce goes out. Chennai Petro also benefits, but I don't have a number for that. Since Chennai Petro is a subsidiary of IOC, IOC gets indirect benefit, and MRPL is a subsidiary of ONGC that gets benefited. In terms of upstream and E&P, all the companies which are doing upstream here, not the international ones, so Reliance, ONGC, Oil and GAIL, all of them got an impact because the windfall tax on upstream is also abolished. So the biggest winner emerging out of this is Reliance, then ONGC, followed by Oil. The final one is GAIL. IOC, BPCL, HPCL have zero impact. Petronet, Adani, Total, Gujarat Petro, IGL, MGL, they have zero impact in terms of abolishing of windfall tax. If they are getting any gas from Reliance ONGC oil, for example, that could get cheaper. But I am not too sure if any of these companies will pass any benefit to these companies in terms of procurement price of gases right now. Hope this section was useful and will help you take better decisions when you invest or you book profits in the oil and gas sector. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you tomorrow.